Friday? How's your Saturday, Sunday, or whenever you are listening to this? I'm doing great. And that's not because I have ignored all the things happening in the news. I haven't. I've been reading a lot of it. I'm happy because this is a great industry to be in right now. And I know how terrible that sounds because there's layoffs, microtransactions. Pick your topic, pick your controversial topic that you want to dive into. Have at it. But this has been a wonderful week for me. I played a game called Lushfoil Photography Simulator. And like a lot of games that I play, I go onto the Discord and I kind of immerse myself into that community. And so the game is like a photography sim, as it, purports to be. It'll teach you how to use a DSLR and the settings, and it gives you lots of tasks. And I did a whole video about it. Go check that out. But, and there's lots of different types of levels. You have to unlock a lot of stuff, unfortunately. But joining the community now has been its own unique reward. The people are sharing photography tips. They're giving feedback to the one-person developer. There's, I think, 11,000 people in this Discord. And it's great. It's just a fun, very uplifting and positive community to be in that doesn't need to self-police in order to root out the toxicity, So I've done another video a few weeks back for this game called Aneurysm 4, and it's kind of similar, even though the game is like an RP, post-apocalyptic, there's a lot of trolls and toxicity in the game. The actual Discord is a blast. There's a lot of very intelligent people taking the piss out of each other in kind of like a Disco Elysium type of environment, and it's great. It's just fun to see people getting weird with whatever they want to get weird with, whether it's photography, role-playing servers and games, or the fighting game community, which I'm constantly watching in various Discords. So, just looking at the game releases that I have in my backlog, stuff that's coming out next week, having an interview this week for a fantastic job that, fingers crossed, I need everybody to cross all the fingers. It's just exciting. It's an exciting medium. It's an exciting industry, and you're going to hear that a lot in this podcast, so get used to it. So this week, what do we got going on here? Oh, I wanted to personally thank one of my friends. Do you have a mentor out there, or just capable people who maybe have accomplished a little bit more that you really respect? One of my friends talked to me about the interview I had and gave me a lot of advice, how to frame my background. And personally, I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but I've been constantly told that one of my biggest faults in the professional workspace is not championing my successes. And it's totally true. There are some people that are very good at this, and not in a self-serving type of way, but in a productive, this is who I am and this is what I do and this is what you can expect from me kind of way. Like, you should be proud of what you accomplish, and you should learn a skill and how to show that appropriately to the world. And I never really have learned that in the workspace. So they helped me kind of run through a little bit and it reminded me of what I've accomplished. And so very thankful for that. And if you're listening, you know who you are. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the criticism too. Get yourself a mentor and a critic who will be 100% honest with you about different things. So cheers to the people who cheer us on and give us great advice. Let's see, going on to the next section. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, now that we've gone through all the intro and the personal appreciations, we're hitting the new games coming out next week. Only a few that I really want to talk about. And then we're going to go into some of the top news of the last week, and then we're going to move more into some of the deeper articles that, you know, if you're a nerd for the video game industry, the back end is going to kind of be your part. So, you know, if you're just here for the lovely news and the commentary on that, let's get into that. Okay, so new releases of next week. I'm sorry, I'm low energy. My wife's in the other room. She's drawing. She's making a comic book now, apparently, which is great because she's so talented. And she has some noise-canceling headphones on. But still, you know, you want to be respectful. So next week, there's this game called Once Upon a Puppet that's coming out on PC, PS5, and Xbox. It looks like it's a puzzle platformer. It's, you know, one of those Geppetto, Pinocchio-looking stylized things, but it's left to right platformer. Seen those type things a lot before. Looks like it does some interesting things with it. I like the aesthetics, just like kind of that wood grainy look is pretty cool. Next week, we have Days Gone Remastered on PS5. This was one that a lot of people were soured on when it first came out, or kind of like the mainstream. And then it seems like it's really gotten popular over the years. It has these, like, you're a biker. It's open world. You drive and kill zombies type of thing. But it's this really cool horde mechanic where hundreds of zombies will be chasing you all at once. And the big game for next week is Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. It's a sequel to the Dreamcast game, Mark of the Wolves, and it's a fighting game. And I will be playing that a lot. What's this? April 24th? Yep. Go to Real Good there on Twitch, and I will be streaming it. Root me on, or give me a thumbs up, cheer in chat, you know, that type of thing. I need it, man. Come here. Tell me I'm doing a good job. I need that positive freedom. I'm kidding. Oh, that was it. I thought I had more. Nope. Well, there's other games coming out, but you know what? I'm not interested. And if you want to play any Japanese RPGs, you're gonna have to go search those out yourself, because it just ain't my genre, man. You know what I was thinking about today? When do people listen to podcasts? I listen sometimes when I'm doing the dishes, or I'm cleaning up around the house, or maybe playing Dota or a game where I just kind of... Did anybody do this where, like, they play a game, like a heavy duty competitive game, and then it's like that part of your brain gets quiet, and then through your other part of your brain, you're consuming something else. Like, I'll listen to a new album front to back, listen to a podcast, that type of thing. Anyone, when do you listen to podcasts? You thinking about it? Do you have a pattern? I know some people that listen to like 3 or 4 podcasts a day, and whew, I don't know how you do it, how you retain that information. Okay, let's get into some of the news. We're going to rapid fire a few of these because there's a lot that happened, and I want to get to kind of the tail end of this to talk about some of the bigger think pieces, if you will. So this one says, thank you to my cousin for sending this in. It says, young men are playing video games all day instead of getting jobs because they can mooch off of free healthcare, claims congressman. So the TLDR isn't, without getting too political here, I don't want the thought police to come out and get me. Sorry, drinking some chamomile tea. The TLDR here is House Speaker Mike Johnson was talking about the cuts needed for Medicaid, his words. And let me just read it really quick and see if you can detect the old school, I don't want to say boomer because I don't want to be an ageist, but the old school condescension that people had towards video games. If you're young and listening to this, listen. There was a time when video games were not mainstream like they are today. You got made fun of for playing them. If you saw Mario SpaghettiOs, like Mario on a can of SpaghettiOs. That was a big deal. That was a huge deal. The Mario Brothers movie, huge. In theory. Hang on one second. It's late and my legs hurt. So you're gonna hear some stuff that I do to reduce leg pain. Anyone else get that? Restless leg? This is just a rambling episode today. I promise next one will be more upbeat. Anyone else get that restless leg syndrome? Your legs just kind of shake? Oof. Anyway, where was I? Mike Johnson. That's right. So Mike Johnson clearly has an old-fashioned view of games. So this is what he said. No one has talked about cutting one benefit in Medicaid to anyone who's duly owed. What we've talked about is returning work requirements. So, for example, you don't have able-bodied young men on a program that's designed for single mothers and the elderly and disabled. They're draining resources from people. So if you clean that up and shore it up, you save a lot of money and you return the dignity of work to young men who need to be out working instead of playing video games all day. There's a lot there. Let's just unpack it a little bit. I wasn't going to do this, but let's unpack it. So this idea that we as a country, the idea that you have to work, that work will set you free to healthcare. How can I say this? How can I not get on my soapbox? Just give me a minute here. If anyone in government is looking for efficiencies, one would think that the most basic of algorithms would detect wealth inequality and address that first to pay for necessary systems. I was going to say symptoms. Systems that benefit more people collectively, right? That's all we'll say about that. We'll move on. Here's one. It says, Nintendo confirms $90 price for full Breath of the Wild experience on Switch 2. And they write, the TLDR is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for Switch 2 costs $70, with an additional $20 for the DLC, totaling $90. Existing owners can upgrade to the Switch 2 version for $10, gaining better frame rates, higher resolutions, and HDR support. The DLC is not included in the final purchase, or in the initial purchase. What do you think about that? Is it okay for a game like that to cost $70 last generation? $20 for DLC seems pretty normal, but this is kind of the new normal of $70 for games. And, we've covered that before on this podcast, but there's one reason for that is people are saying there's rising dev costs. And so we have to make sure we balance that out with a higher price tag. And other people are saying we can't afford that. What are you talking about? We'll have to buy less games each year. So as always, I think the best way to handle these types of situations is voting with your dollars. Just don't brigade. I'm just tired of the toxicity, guys. Just tired of all the anger. Can we not? Just don't buy it. Just don't buy it. Let people. You don't have to convince people to not buy it. People are very intelligent, especially when it comes to their money for these types of things. When people see $70 for a new game, what will they say? And yes, okay, everyone's saying, oh, I remember back in the 90s when cartridges used to cost $70, $80, $90 as well. Yeah, I think I paid $85 for Super Mario RPG. That's just what you did. Sure, yeah, I don't know. I never really find it productive to talk about how we should be happy to pay more money. I just fundamental concept I can't jive with. This one says, video game consoles not included in tech tariff exemptions. Trump's tariff rollout is confusing and chaotic. And you know, I'm reading this Thursday night, Friday morning. This came out a couple days ago. This might change. He might come out, who knows, put out a tweet or something. I don't know what you call them on Truth Social, Truth Bits. He might put something out literally in seconds and say, video game consoles are great. I love Miyamoto. You know, I don't know. Spoke to Miyamoto. Real good guy. He's going to make a game about me. I don't know. It sucks. Last week we talked about how different console makers export consoles from different countries and how those varying tariff prices may shift the prices over here. And how will that affect consoles and how we play them? Don't know. Could be long-term effects, could be no effects. We'll see. Like everything in this administration. We'll see, right? We'll see. We'll see. Speaking of which, Trump's latest crypto venture will be a video game, and sources say it will be like Monopoly. It'll be a perfectly valid, very big, very beautiful, something like you've never seen before. People will be talking about it. They'll be saying, I've never seen anything like this before. This is the best. Right? I wouldn't hold my breath, people, for that. Yeah, they talk about how it's going to be like real estate, and I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm walking through a minefield right now with these things, but I feel like I have to inform. I have to inform you of these things that are happening in the world. But it's risky to speak up about certain things. And I'm trying to keep this podcast kind of, uplifting for the most part. So Kyle yells at cloud can be another type of thing. Okay. This one, we see a lot of these different types of articles. It says nostalgia fuels UK boom in vintage video game repairs. And it says retro gaming, just pick it up, turn it on, have an hour, 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. It's instant, it's there, and it's pleasurable. This guy they interviewed says. And while these types of articles, they pop up everywhere. It seems like every few months there's someone talking about the rise of retro gaming, how Gen Z is being reacquainted with it, how millennials now have money to refurbish things. There's all types of stuff like that. I just thought there was 2 points to this article that I wanted to bring up with you. It says, there's one segment that said, with vintage one-player games, and it quotes this person they were talking to at this repair shop, there's no one you're competing against, and there's nothing that's making you miserable or angry. And I think that speaks to that person and maybe a lot of people's disenfranchisement with modern gaming. It does feel like there's like a lot of artificial filler in games that, sometimes it's too obvious. Bosses may be too easy. There's like this thing they call yellow paint in games where it'll be directing people where to climb or where to jump. But I thought the part about there's nothing that's making you miserable or angry is really interesting. I don't have that experience with this medium. I don't have any problems with modern gaming because every single day of my life I see a new game that I want to play, that I want to spend time with and convince all my friends to play with me for 2 hours, and then I move on and they all like go, why did you tell us to buy and play this game? ultimately, yeah, there's some toxicity in gaming, but it doesn't make me miserable or angry. You know, we can always shut it off. We can always put the microphone down or mute people. So it kind of hurt me to hear that this person has that experience. And I think there's certainly a lot of those types of gamers in different parts of the internet that are in a feedback loop with other gamers about how they hate. How they hate. Let's just end it there. And then there's another bit to this article. It said a study earlier this year by the U.S. Association Consumer Reports found 14% of Americans played on consoles made before 2000. I don't know how true that is, though. I can't think of anybody that plays games regularly on consoles made before 2000. Maybe I'm wrong. There was another bit of Ubisoft in the news that went let me rephrase that. There's another article about Ubisoft that went under the radar, actually, and I'm kind of surprised that this did, considering it was a lawsuit against them. It says, Ubisoft beats privacy lawsuit as court finds website tracking con. So they were being sued by people over information that they collected during the checkout process. It says, a video game developer Ubisoft came out on top earlier this month in the Northern District of California when a judge dismissed with prejudice a class action claiming that the company's use of third-party website pixels violated privacy laws. It says the plaintiffs alleged that Ubisoft collected and disclosed plaintiffs' personal information and website usage without their consent through website pixels. Ubisoft moved to dismiss the claims based on the fact that the plaintiffs' claims relied on the lack of consent, but that plaintiffs had consented to the use of cookies and pixels at least 3 times during the purchase process, and then other different things. So there's a lot of hate for Ubisoft out there these days. We don't need to go into whether it's valid or not, but there's a lot of people that hate it, and so I'm not surprised to see a lawsuit against them, but I'm surprised that more gamers that don't like the company were angry about this, about, people losing out. So always interesting to see how that hate evolves. In other news, a 3,075 foot tall projection of video game character Shadow excites fans of Sonic the Hedgehog. And this is at Guinness World Records. I'm going to read this in character here, like a news reporter. One second. On December 18th, shoppers at the American Dream Mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey, USA, were spooked and excited to see one of their favorite characters from the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise projected onto the wall of their local mall. The projection, aptly depicting Shadow, a rebellious, chaotic, magic hedgehog, took up the entire side of the wall, spanning an incredible 3,075 square feet. Arranged by Paramount Pictures to promote the movie Sonic the Hedgehog 3, they teamed up with tech experts at MAP360 Collective and BML Blackbird to create the exciting image. Thrilled fans even got the chance to meet Sonic and Shadow inside and celebrate with them as Guinness World Records educator Michael Emprick presented the characters with an official certificate and announced their record title for largest Shadow projection. Here's an idea. Here's a creative. This is why they pay me the big bucks for creativity. You ready? A marketing campaign that's just Guinness World Records. That's it. You don't do anything for marketing unless it's a Guinness World Record moment. And even better, if it's specific, like those weird specific ones, like farthest continuous railway up a mountain moved manually with your arms, something stupid. Or like most candy canes shoved into your mouth, that type of thing. Like only those types of things. Just for something really really dumb, but something that has the budget for it. Makes you think, right? Like, you know what game could do that? Like the Yakuza series. They could do something like that if it was like a small standalone indie game or something. Just do weird stuff like that. I love that series, by the way. The Yakuza games. I have like 150 hours in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and I can't put this game down. I've done everything possible. I never do that in these games. Anyway, next article. Oh, here's a big one. You ready? Amy Lee of Evanescence names the video game that inspired her lone tattoo. That was an article at Loudwire. Anyone have any guesses? Zelda. You needed to know that today, didn't you? Huh? No offense to Amy Lee. She seems very sweet in the video, but, you know, slow news day or something. I don't know. It's cool, I guess. I clicked on it, so you're the one that's laughing, I guess. And I'm an idiot. Here's something cool. Elder Scrolls 3, or no, not 3. What am I saying? Elder Scrolls Online celebrates 10 years by letting you buy a genuine chunk of MMO server for the low price of $110. So yeah, you can buy a piece of the server. It's like in a plaque. It looks all cool. It's all done up. We look at this again. Yeah, 10 years. Honestly, some people were making fun of it. I think this is dope. I think, look, I got a Dota tattoo on my hand. That's nothing compared to that. So if I made fun of that, I'd kind of be a hypocrite. So that's really cool, though. I think what game would I want that for? Let's see. What would I want a piece of the server for? I don't know if I'd want a piece of the server. Street Fighter 4, maybe? World of Warcraft, I don't think I would. I know a guy that actually has a server. One of his buddies at Blizzard gave him like the whole server, like the board or whatever for it. I don't know. And it says on it what server it was. It's just kind of cool. But I don't know which one I would pick. If I could, I think I would pick maybe like an original piece of something from Punch-Out. I don't know why that game always just jumps out as like one of the most nostalgic for me. I think it's the pain that it caused me. I think it was losing and just constantly having to learn. And I think that game was probably a precursor to fighting games for me. There you go. We figured it out. All right, now we're going to shift gears a little bit into this. We're taking a bit more time. I'm rambling a bit more than I anticipated, so we're not going to go too much into these deeper dive articles, but I do want to recommend some to you if you want some deeper thought pieces, big think pieces about the video game industry. But before we do that, I want to call out this post on Reddit Gaming that was posted by someone named Old Times Return. And it says, I'm completely burnt out of time-sensitive battle passes. I think we all feel that too, right? It says, I'm so tired of being slaved by battle passes, needing to play most games daily just to get my money's worth. This is such a shitty system to force people to play the game. And he's talking about Valorant, TFT, Fortnite, Fragpunk, and... It says, if I have to play your game, even if I'm not feeling like it, I'm going to start hating your game. And I think he got me with the headline. He lost me a little bit with the ending there. Because if you feel like you have to play a game, I think that's a you problem. And I think we've all been there a little bit too. But you know, there is some legitimacy to battle passes kind of being a little bit too aggressive. It doesn't feel healthy, especially if you can't go back and get them, or if they're not always available and you can activate them once in a while. And I'm kind of tired of the battle pass concept as well. I like limited time rewards, but you know, copying and pasting what's already been done just isn't fun. It's just not unique. But I would say examine your relationship with media if you are feeling like you have to play a game. Respectfully. Respectfully. Okay, so this article, I really try to keep things kind of positive on this podcast, but I do want to let people know about some things that are happening in gaming. So this one says, kids' video games use gambling-like tactics to trap young players. New consumer report finds. And it says, in short, popular video games are using harmful tactics to keep kids gaming for longer, a new report has found. Researchers from CPRC and Monash University, who authored the report, looked at 20, quote, dark patterns, which they say deceived and manipulated gamers. And what's next? The Consumer Policy Research Center wants the federal government to create an independent body that would adjudicate complaints called the Digital Ombudsman. And it says kids playing, here, let's go down into this. I don't have much time. Of most concern was children being exposed to gambling-like features such as paid loot boxes and prompted to buy items with in-game currencies. Paid loot boxes require a player to pay to open a mystery box in the hope that they receive something valuable in the game. Unlike the electronic gaming industry, which has strict rules on how much money is returned to a player who pulls the lever of a poke machine, they said there's nothing forcing video game developers to even disclose that. This is gambling without limits and real manipulation. It says researchers said paid loot boxes had the potential to normalize and encourage monetary gambling among children and young people. So gambling has been on the rise for young people, and there's specific streaming platforms that okay this, and it's something to watch out for. And it says children targeted. It talks about Roblox, about promoting gambling, and it really goes into that. But yeah, and people are complaining. People are trying to sound alarms for this. They're putting in the good work that we need to appreciate. So this article isn't, or me bringing it up here, isn't so much about whining about these bad things, but really there are good people out there doing the good work, and they're looking out for us. I read a comic book or graphic novel not too long ago. It was about parents in the 80s and how they pushed back 70s and 80s on advertising certain products to kids. And it went into toy companies and action figures and He-Man especially, because you couldn't create a toy and kind of market that toy with a cartoon, but you could create a cartoon based off of a comic book. So a lot of these types of like G.I. Joe and all that, they started as toy lines, and then they kind of built a universe around that in different ways. And so there was a push-pull with parents groups about different things like that. But yeah, it's we need more oversight in gaming. We need a lot more. There's a lot of concerning things happening, and a lot of parents that seem to be AFK these days. So when you see something that says the dark side of gaming, like in this article, you will, don't immediately knee-jerk and say, gaming's all good. How can we do this? Because remember, that is a natural thing to feel after the Mike Johnson thing I read. There's a very much old, toxic way of thinking that video games are all bad, but we really have to be honest with ourselves, and especially protecting younger generations, and admit there is a lot bad with video games. So anyway, keep that opinion close to your heart, please. That's all I ask. Here's another one. This is over at the MIT Press Reader. This is so interesting. It says how Nintendo bled Atari games to death. Behind every great console is a great legal fight. And we just read a couple of paragraphs so you get the idea here and get at the writing style. It says, in July 2024, a new company called Tengen Games released its first game, Z and Z, for the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES. The surprising part of the story is not the release of a new homebrew game for a system released in 1985, but that Tengen and its parent company, Atari Games, had disappeared 30 years ago after being crushed in court by Nintendo for doing exactly the same thing, manufacturing unauthorized cartridges for the NES. For those who don't know, the gaming crash of like 1983 or the early 80s largely happened because there's a lot of people who flooded the marketplace with crap games. You basically couldn't you couldn't quality control Atari on their console. Anybody could kind of release a game for the Atari, just like a VHS, if you will. Then came a Nintendo, and only Nintendo could really allow the manufacturing of Nintendo cartridges. So then they also, with this, they recognized this need for quality and created what was called the Nintendo Seal of Quality, and they slapped that on their games. So they transformed consumer trust where there was little in the video game industry, and really changed things around. So that's kind of a backstory on that one. It says, the article goes on, this story isn't just a curiosity. It highlights how the gaming industry, like many creative fields, is defined as much by legal and business decisions as by artistic vision. Behind every major shift, there's a dance between engineers, lawyers, and business leaders visible only to a few insiders. Nintendo lawyers, more than Mario, made Nintendo. Or it says Nintendo's lawyers, more than Mario, made Nintendo. Atari's lawyers, more than E.T., notoriously the worst game of all time, sealed its downfall. And yeah, it goes into that, and they talk about a lot of what I just mentioned. It's a fantastic article. It's something that you don't hear, like the legal battle between Atari and Nintendo. You don't hear about that very often. And I'm so sorry if you were one of the news people that listen to this part of the podcast and you're like, no one cares about that, Kyle. Yes, they do, because I'm one of those people. I love this stuff. So go check it out. Super cool. This was an interesting one. It was from a site called Aftermath, and I hadn't heard of this, but when I saw the writer, I recognized their name. And it says, video game blogs from the 2000s were fast, reckless, and very bad at news. When everything was news, nothing was. And this is by Luke Plunkett. And it talks a bit about Kotaku, and they go into this. For those who don't know, Kotaku was this video game news website that kind of blew up and transformed a lot of video game discourse in certain corners of the internet. And there's a big falling out. There's a lot of controversies with it. But let me just read into this a little bit, this article, just so you have an idea of what the tone's like. And if you remember checking Kotaku every day, go and read this article and go and check out what the people at Aftermath are doing. It's a fascinating thing. So it goes on. Some people love to talk shit about Kotaku, a publication that all of us here at Aftermath used to work at. Over the last 20 years, the site has been at the vanguard of changing tastes and practices in video games journalism, which means that while it has done and continues to do some amazing work, it has also made its fair share of mistakes and missteps along the way. That's what happens when you're always trying to do something new. It's also what happens when you're a small and overworked group of human beings and you work at a larger company where leadership has its own ideas. For all of people's continued teeth gnashing about the site, much of which is rooted in culture war bullshit, the site was also part of a trend in video game journalism, particularly in the mid to late 2000s, that I think has permanently altered how readers understand video game news. Despite this intro, I'm not going to be singling out any one person or website for criticism here. I led Kotaku and will mention it a few more times as an example, but because I used to work there and still have the most experience with it. But you can substitute its name for any of its competitors. from Joystick to Destructoid to VG247 to early days Polygon, and the story will be the same. Like so many other issues with video games media, and all media really, the problems I'm going to be talking about here are systemic, which maybe makes them easier to handwave away, but also more difficult to address. And the problem with sites like Kotaku, in the 2000s especially, is that they helped utterly devalue the way we consume news about this medium. So, very cool. I think taking ownership of those things is very, very alluring. And way to go, Luke, for that one. Way to go on the article. Not much to talk about here. It says Trevor Noah's Day Zero Productions launches climate-themed indie video game competition. And that's going to be on Earth Day. And it says, with indie developer Anima Interactive and Marcel the Shell with Shoes On producer Cinereach. And it runs April 22nd through May 10th, and you get a $10,000 grand prize from it. All participants will receive a narrative toolkit created by Cinereach in partnership with Good Energy, offering insights and climate research to inform projects. Additional sponsors and partners for the competition include International Game Developers Association, Black in Gaming Foundation, Latinx in Gaming, and Games for Change. I love this idea. I hope that they create something provocative and interesting, maybe a little less heavy-handed, because I've been actively watching this educational space for decades now, and there isn't a whole lot there that is fun. A lot of it seems very basic, heavy-handed in its tone and what it's trying to tell you. There was one that really caught my eye, and I think I'm still going to get a tattoo about this, but it was called 9.03M, and it was a game about the typhoon or the tsunami in Japan. And you're just walking around a beach and memories would pop up, and it was one of the first games of my adult life that brought me to tears. And I remember how I felt when I played it. But, you know, it wasn't necessarily heavy-handed in its approach to, you know, climate change or anything like that, but it did get me thinking on a broader level about people in other parts of the world, if you will. So, and finally, the last article that we always save to make you feel good about the weekend, because you should. And what are you doing this weekend? Are you like me and going to watch WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday night? You should. So this one, hopefully this article makes you feel good about humanity and what we're doing in the gaming industry. So let me read it here really quick, and then I'll let you go, okay? It says, Ubisoft Chroma helps developers simulate color blindness across all game engines, making games more inclusive for 300 million players with color blindness. And I said on this podcast many times, my wife is legally blind. She is colorblind. So this one hits in the feels. All right, it reads, something to look forward to. People with color blindness have varying degrees of difficulty seeing or distinguishing certain colors. Gamers affected by color blindness often rely on specific accessibility options to fully enjoy their on-screen experience. Ubisoft's latest release, however, could significantly improve their experience, not just in one game, but across a broader range of titles. Ubisoft recently introduced Chroma, an open-source tool designed to simulate various types of color blindness. According to the French publisher, around 300 million people worldwide are affected by color vision deficiency, many of whom are gamers who spend significant time engaging with rich and vibrant digital environments. With Chroma, developers can simulate the three main types of color blindness: protanopia, deuteranopia, and tritanopia. Ubisoft has already used the tool internally across several game projects, supporting its accessibility team during complex testing scenarios. Notably, Chroma is designed to work across all games with no dependencies on specific game engines or platforms. Yeah, so it's lovely. I just wanted to end with, no matter what you think of Ubisoft, and if you hate them and think of them as anti-consumer, give them a hand on this one. This is lovely. This is making me tear up, as a lot of the articles I saved for the end do. If any of you have known someone with color blindness that struggles to play a game or simply can't because of that, hopefully a lot of developers will use this. That's all I can say. So thank you for another kind of chill vibes podcast. I promise next week we'll be full throttle in beautiful ways you've never seen before, in ways people tell me, oh my God, this is full throttle, this is the best, this is beautiful, this is the best podcast. Anyway, I'm going. All right, thank you everyone for listening as always. I will see you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye.